Namaskar learners. I, Harpreet Kaur, welcome you all on behalf of National Institute of Open Schooling, that is NIOS. As you all know that the motive of NIOS is education for all. That's why we keep on bringing for you our audio and video programs. And today, in this video program, we have brought something very important and interesting under the subject chemistry. We are going to talk about coordination compounds. But before we start the topic, let me ask you a question. Learners, do you know we all are chemists? Confused? Let me explain you how. We use chemicals every day and perform chemical reactions without thinking much about them. And it's very important to understand chemistry because chemistry shows the world around us. From cooking to cleaning, from fireworks to medicine, chemistry plays an important role. And those students who want to make their careers in this branch of science, it is very important for them to understand the basic concepts of chemistry. So if you wish to become a doctor or a geologist, a nutritionist, and of course chemist, then you need to study chemistry. And what are we waiting for now? Let's start learning chemistry. Today we have with us Professor Sulekh Chandra, who is Associate Professor from Zakir Hussain College, Delhi University. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you, madam.
And we also have with us Dr. Rajiv Prasad, Academic Officer Chemistry, NIOS. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
So, sir, before we take up the topic of coordination compounds, I would like to ask you, what do you mean by complex compounds?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Complex compounds, you can easily say that if you take the only complexes, that mat line is surrounded by certain organic moieties. That is generally called as ligands.
Okay.
So such type of compounds are known as complexes. But actually, the coordination words come from the bonding. Because there are three types of bonding, that is ionic, covalent and coordinate. Coordinate compounds means where coordination bondage exists. Where the compounds having coordinate bond, such compounds are known as coordination compounds. So let me discuss about this role of the coordination compounds in different, as you know very well aware about the photosynthesis process in plants. Hemoglobin in animals, living beings rather you can say, they play an important role in their livings. If photosynthesis reaction is not there, then plants will not be able to prepare their food, that is starch. Similarly, if hemoglobin is not there, then it is difficult to survive for the animals or living beings you can say. Similarly, you will find that in medicines, as Harpreet told you people, that chemistry is everywhere. So in medicines, complex also plays an important role. For example, you can take sodium nitroprusside, which is used to lower the blood pressure during surgery. And similarly, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, that is called EDTA, is used as an antidote, poisoning of mercury and lead. So you will see that role of complexes is far. Now, as far as complexes are concerned, all the compounds known so far has been divided into two categories, known as simple salts, and second category is addition or molecular compounds. Simple salts means the compounds are obtained by neutralization reactions. For example, you take sodium hydroxide, react with hydrochloric acid, you will get sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is a simple salt. Now, addition and molecular compounds are where we combine or we mix two or more simple salts in a definite ratio. Then, in any solvent, then solvent is allowed to evaporate. The compounds so obtained are known as addition or molecular compounds.
Okay.
They are further divided into two categories known as double salts and complexes. Double salts means you will find here, you can easily differentiate between double salt and complexes. Double salts will retain their identity in solid state only. When you dissolve them in any solvent, they dissociate and you can confirm by using qualitative test. For example, you take more salt. Students are very aware about the more salt. That is ferrous ammonium sulfate, containing ferrous sulfate, ammonium sulfate. These are the two simple salts, plus 6 H2O. When you dissolve this compound in water, you will see that you can test for iron radicals, for sulfate radicals, as well as for ammonium radicals. But if you take FeCN6 3 minus, if you dissolve them into water, you cannot test for iron as well as cyanide separately. It will give you combined test for ferrocyanide radical or ferricyanide radical.
Okay.
So you can say that double salt means they retain their identity in solid state only and lose it in solution, but complex means that they retain their identity in solid state as well as in solution. Such compounds are known as complexes.
Okay.
Now you can simply explain the different terms involved in the complexes. The most important part is the coordination number. Actually, in generally books you will find the number of ligand around the central metal ion. This is not the correct definition. The correct definition is the number of ligand atoms attached with the central metal ion. I'll give you the example here, you can easily calculate. For example, you take CONH36 3 plus ion. Here you can simply say that there are 6 ammonia around the cobalt. So therefore coordination will be 6. Similarly, you take another example, COEN3 3 plus. Here number of the ligands are 3, but coordination number will be 6 because ethylene diamine, one ethylene diamine molecule attached with the metal ion at 2 places. So therefore 2 into 3 coordination will be 6. Or you can say calcium EDTA complex, EDTA, because EDTA attached to 6 places. So again there is only one EDTA,
okay,
but this is going to attach at 6 places. So coordination number will remain 6. So you can easily define the coordination number, the number of ligand atoms attached with the central metal ion. Second important thing is, and which is the most important part, that is coordination sphere. You will always use square bracket. What is the use of this square bracket? Actually, the use of square bracket is that only which is the species which is present inside this square bracket will be a part of complex. I have just told you CONH36 3 plus, you will find one square bracket. It means this is complex. If you place CONH36 Cl3 outside this square bracket, Cl3 is not a part of the complex.
Okay.
So that's why students should be clear here, because students generally ask and say that suppose we add silver nitrate, sir, will get the precipitate of silver chloride. You will get, because chloride is not a part of complex. So students should be clear, only those species which are written inside the square bracket will be a part of complex. That is complex. Either cation is present outside the square bracket or anion. They are there only just to neutralize the charge present on the complex. So we can define the coordination sphere means space inside the square bracket is known as coordination sphere. Third is the, and which is most important, students should be clear how they will calculate the oxidation number of the central metal ion in a complex. Yeah. Students should be clear about the charges present on the anions or ligands present inside the coordination sphere. For example, I have just told you CONH36 3 plus. Student can easily say that cobalt is X, ammonia is neutral, so X plus 0 is equal to 3. So X will be 3. So therefore the oxidation state or oxidation number of cobalt is 3. Similarly, you can say, for example, that FeCN6 3 minus. Here iron you put X, because cyanide ion has one negative charge. So this becomes minus 6. X minus 6 will be equal to minus 3, because minus 3 charge is put on the complex.
Okay.
So you can say then X will be minus 3 plus 6, that is again X will be 3. So you can easily calculate the oxidation number of the complex in the central metal ion, the complexes, as the simple salts. For example, you take KMnO4, potassium is plus 1, you put X for a manganese. So plus 1 plus X plus minus 8, because oxygen is having 2 negative charge. So you can easily find out the manganese, the oxidation number of manganese will be plus 7. Now next step is, that is the most important, the ligands. H, I have told you the formation of coordinate bond. So generally we define the ligands that the ligand should have lone pair of electrons. These lone pair of electrons donated by the ligands to the central metal ion. The bond which is formed in the central metal ion and the ligand is known as coordinate bond. So therefore, I have told you coordinate compound means they have coordinate bond. Now you can simply define the ligands means I just told you Lewis base. Lewis base means, so metal ion is a Lewis acid and ligand is a Lewis base. Lewis base can easily dominate the lone pair of electron on the central metal ion. So this is the definitions of the ligands, but you should be able to explain the different type of ligands, classification based on the different categories. For example, first class may be based on charges.
Okay.
I have just told you the charges you students should learn positively, how much negative charge there, ligand is neutral or ligand is anionic in nature. So on the basis of charge, we can divide the ligand three categories. Anionic ligands having negative charge, say cyanide ion, sulfate 2 minus ion, phosphate 3 minus ion, acetate minus ion. So all these are comes under the category of anionic ligands. Second category is neutral ligands having no charge, like ammonia, water, ethylene diamine, they don't have charge. So these are known as neutral ligand. Third category is cationic ligands, very few in number, that is NO plus or C2H5 plus, they have positive charge. This is the first classification. Second classification is based on the donor sites. You will see here that some ligands donate only one lone pair electrons and attach with the one metal ion. Simply we can say attachment is 1. For ammonia, attach with the nitrogen only. So we say monodentate ligand. If the ligand is again attached at two places, for example, ethylene diamine. Ethylene diamine is going to attach with the two nitrogen. So that's why we can say ethylene diamine is a bidentate ligand. Similarly, you can give more example, oxalate ion, carbonate ion, that is 8-hydroxyconylene, all act as bidentate ligand.
Okay.
Third is tridentate ligand, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, so on. All these ligands combine known as polydentate ligand.
Okay.
So ligand other than bidentate are also known as polydentate ligand, where we can take the example of EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, which has 6 coordinate sites, or we can take diethylene triamine or triethylene tetraamine, all act as tri-tetradentate ligands. So all these are known as polydentate ligands. Now another classification is chelate or non-chelate. This is most important again. If a ligand is going to form a jaw, that is the ring around the central metal ion, these ligands are known as chelatic ligands.
Okay.
If ligand is bidentate, but it is not going to form a ring around central metal ion, that will be called as non-chelated ligands.
Okay.
Similarly, we can classify the ligands on the basis of lone pair of electrons are there or not. Again, we have to divide into 3 categories. The first category is the ligands having only lone pair of electrons. For example, ammonia, water, all will have only lone pair of electrons. Second category is the ligands having lone pair of electrons with vacant pi orbitals.
Okay.
These ligands are known as carbonyl, carbon oxide, or arsine or phosphine.
Okay.
And third category is, this is the contradictory statement again. I have just told you ligand means they should have a tendency to donate the lone pair of electrons. But the third category ligands, they don't have any lone pair of electrons, but they act as a ligands.
Okay.
They have vacant pi orbitals. Those vacant pi orbitals overlap with the metal orbital to form pi bonds. Such type of compounds generally known as organometallic compounds. Organometallic compound means they should have metal carbon bonds. So this is about the ligands.
So Professor, you have thoroughly explained so far about coordination compounds, complex compounds, and of course the ligands. Now Dr. Rajiv, my question to you is, how coordination compound is different from an ionic or a covalent compound?
Okay. So you have got the basic concepts about the complexes, which type of bonding it has.
Yes.
So now take the example of NaCl, sodium chloride, the best example you can understand. When this compound is dissolved in water, you will get sodium ion plus chloride ion, very simple thing.
Okay.
When we take another example of a complex, suppose we take the example of K3FeCN6. This is the complex of iron, potassium hexacyanoferrate. When you dissolve this complex in water, as the general observation, we should get the ions of iron, we should get the ions of cyanide ion, and we should also get the potassium ion. All three types of elements are present there.
Okay.
But when we dissolve this complex, we get only the ions potassium ion. We never get that any test or any confirmatory test that shows the presence of cyanide ion or Fe3 plus ion. So this is the basic differences, that in case of ionic compounds we get all the ions, we can say the cations and anions present in the ionic compound, but in the complexes those elements or the entities present outside the coordination sphere that is ionized in the water, and all the parts which is present inside the coordination sphere, that is the big bracket, these entities are not ionized. That is the basic difference between the ionic and the complex compound.
So far we have understood a lot about coordination compounds, but as a learner we must have some basic idea about the basic concepts that we use in coordination compounds. So Dr. Rajiv, I would like to start with you. Sir has already explained about the ligands. Would you like to add on something?
Yeah, so sir has explained you about the ligands, the central metal ions, coordination number and oxidation states.
Okay.
So these four concepts are most important to understand the basics of coordination compounds.
Okay.
For example, we start from the ligands. If we understand about the ligand, their nature, their types of bond, coordinate bond basically formed by the ligands,
Okay.
we can easily understand the coordination number, which is related with the coordinate bond formed by the ligands.
Okay.
So sir explained you that there are three types of ligands, the anionic, cationic and neutral ligands. So these ions, basically the coordination ligands, decides whether the complex will be ionic, cationic or neutral ligands. And the most important part about the ligands, that what are the number of coordinate bond formed by the ligand with the central metal ion.
Okay.
That decides the coordination number.
Okay.
And next, the important thing we should understand that what is the central metal ion. Basically we confused. Suppose the example we have given, potassium K3 coordination sphere sign, then Fe CN6. Here is two metals are present, basically the potassium and the iron. So what the metal which is present inside the coordination sphere is central metal ion, and those present outside the coordination sphere, they are not the central metal. And the outside coordination sphere elements, that the potassium, they are ionizes, but the inside metal, that is the iron metal present in the coordination sphere, do not ionizes.
Okay.
And how to determine the coordination number? That is the most important part. So whenever a complex is given, you have to consider only the entities, the anions or cations, central metal given in the bracket. We don't have to look outside the coordination sphere. For example, in the complex CONH3 whole 6 Cl2, this is the basic examples, one complex. We know that the ammonia is monodentate ligand. So total 6 coordinate bond will be formed with the cobalt, hence the coordination will be 6.
Okay.
And Cl2 is another entities which has importance in the calculation of oxidation number of central metal ion.
Okay.
So these are the basic concept we must have to understand better about the coordination compounds.
Professor, my next question is for you. What is the coordination number of central metal ion?
This I have just told you. The coordination number means the number of ligand atoms attached with the central metal ion. For example, I have just told you that if you take FeCN6, 3 minus. So there is no doubt there are 6 cyanide ion around the central metal ion. So you can say coordination number will be 6. But certain ligands have more than one coordination sites. For example, you can take COEN3, 3 plus. Here ligand are 3, but coordination number will be 6.
Okay.
Because one ligand will attach with the metal ion 2 places. So since there are 3 ligands will attach 6 places. Similarly, you can get EDTA. It is going to attach with the metal ion at 6 places. So that's why we can say that also there is one ligand, that is calcium EDTA, but coordination number will be remain 6.
Okay.
So that students should be clear, not the number of ligands. Students should know that how many places a ligand going to attach with the central metal ion. Now, two more categories I have to discuss again, types of ligands. One category is which is used in nomenclature as well as isomerism.
Okay.
That is called ambidentate ligands. Ambidentate means, suppose you take cyanide. Cyanide has two coordinate sites. It can attach with the carbon as well as through nitrogen. But it will always attach with one, either carbon or through nitrogen. You are very well aware. Cyanide or isocyanide, either CN or NC. Similarly, thiocyanate, SCN. It can coordinate with sulfur as well as nitrogen. But it always attaches the one site only, either through sulfur or through nitrogen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Such type of ligands are known as ambidentate ligands. One more category is there, flexidentate ligands. I have just given you example of EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. You will see that ethylene diamine generally have 6 coordinate sites, but sometimes if you want to prepare the complex of platinum 2 or palladium 2 with this same ligand, you will find that it shows only 4 attached with metal ion at 4 places. So sometimes it acts as hexadentate, sometimes it acts as tetradentate depending upon the nature of metal ion. Such ligands are known as ambidentate ligand. One more example I will give you, sulfate. Sulfate, you can see sulfate acts as monodentate as well as bidentate. Sometimes it acts as bidentate. So this is also known as ambidentate ligand. Now I have to move, mainly you will be surprised to note that from where complex come. That complex, first complex, you will be surprised to note that that was synthesized by a color maker of Berlin, not by a chemist. Actually, incidentally, he was preparing washing soda.
Okay.
He has taken some animal waste in an iron container and he boiled them in the presence of sodium carbonate.
Okay.
He was surprised to see that he got intense blue color because he was not a chemist.
Okay.
So therefore, he could not explain why this blue color has been developed.
Okay.
After that, Tejard was the another chemist who has started to prepare the complexes of ammonia. He has treated cobalt chloride with ammonia, and there is no doubt he has synthesized COCl3 6NH3,
Okay.
COCl3 5NH3, COCl3 4NH3, COCl3 3NH3.
Okay.
But Tejard could not explain that how many ammonia or how many chlorides are present inside the square bracket.
Okay.
Means
Coordination.
what should be the formula of the complex? He could not explain.
Okay.
He has just given the empirical formula. The empirical formula of this compound is COCl3 6NH3, COCl3 5NH3 or COCl3 4NH3, so on. Then in 1892, Werner has given his own theory, and on the basis of Werner's theory, Werner was first chemist who has successfully explained the formula as well as structure of the complexes. Therefore, he got Nobel Prize in 1913, and that's why he is known as father of coordination chemistry.
Learners, I hope you have understood this chapter of coordination compounds. It is very interesting and very important from your examination point of view. Are you jotting down the important points? I'm sure you are. If you have any queries, you can always email us. With our best wishes, and be a successful self-learner. Apart from these video programs, you can also listen to our audio programs, which we call live and interactive personal contact programs. Yes, they are live. You can listen to them through our web radio known as Mukt Vidyavani, and they are very much interactive because we want your participation in those programs. You can always call us in the middle of our audio programs. You can speak to our experts, you can raise your questions, and then of course you will get your answers. So we wish you all the luck once again, and with this, it's a wrap. I, Harpreet Kaur, take leave of you from the studio of NIOS, and I thank both my experts, Professor Sulekh Chandra
Thank you,
and Dr. Rajiv Prasad, for their valuable contribution and time. Good luck, goodbye.
घर बैठे पाएं राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय शिक्षा संस्थान यानी NIOS में एडमिशन, वो भी एकदम आसान तरीके से, जिससे शिक्षार्थियों को होगी समय और धन दोनों की बचत। NIOS से शिक्षा कभी भी कहीं भी। शिक्षार्थियों, क्या आप जानते हैं NIOS में एडमिशन लेने का सरल और सुगम तरीका, जिससे शिक्षार्थियों को ऑनलाइन प्रवेश लेने में सहूलियत मिलती है। NIOS में प्रवेश की प्रक्रिया पूर्णतया ऑनलाइन है। शिक्षार्थी घर बैठे इंटरनेट द्वारा प्रवेश के लिए सबसे पहले NIOS की वेबसाइट www.nios.ac.in पर लॉगिन करें। अपना ईमेल आईडी और पासवर्ड डालकर अपना पंजीकरण करें। पंजीकरण के बाद लॉगिन करने पर ऑनलाइन प्रवेश हेतु आवेदन पत्र खुलेगा। आवेदन पत्र को निर्देशानुसार भरें और प्रिंट आउट लें। इस प्रिंट आउट पर अपनी फोटो संलग्न करें। ऑनलाइन प्रवेश के लिए शुल्क हेतु भुगतान के तरीके हैं: क्रेडिट कार्ड के द्वारा, डेबिट कार्ड के द्वारा, राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक के ड्राफ्ट के माध्यम से, जो कि सचिव NIOS नई दिल्ली या नोएडा के पक्ष में देय हो। भरे हुए आवेदन पत्र के साथ साथ डिमांड ड्राफ्ट और संलग्न किए जाने वाले दस्तावेज हैं: जन्म रजिस्ट्रार के जिला कार्यालय से जारी जन्म प्रमाण पत्र की सत्यापित प्रति, जिसमें जन्म तिथि अंकित हो, पिछले विद्यालय से प्राप्त विद्यालय छोड़ने का प्रमाण पत्र, जिसमें आवेदक की जन्म तिथि लिखी हो। प्रवेश फॉर्म का प्रिंट आउट NIOS के संबद्ध क्षेत्रीय केंद्रों पर 10 दिनों में पहुंच जाना चाहिए, अन्यथा उचित दस्तावेज न लगे होने पर आवेदन फॉर्म रद्द किया जा सकता है। प्रवेश प्रक्रिया की पुष्टि होने के बाद शिक्षार्थियों को परिचय पत्र व अध्ययन सामग्री डाक द्वारा तुरंत पहुंचाई जाती है। ऑनलाइन प्रवेश एक बहुत ही सुगम और सुविधाजनक प्रवेश प्रणाली है। ऑनलाइन ऑन टाइम फॉर सेफ एंड सिक्योर एडमिशन।
हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में नौजवानों के पास प्रतिभा है, उन्हें अवसर चाहिए।
NIOS देता रहा है युवाओं को अवसर आगे बढ़ने का। NIOS से पढ़ने वाले इन युवाओं ने किया है संस्थान को गौरवान्वित। दिव्यांगों ने बन के दिखाया है सबल और आत्मनिर्भर। NIOS के साथ आप भी जुड़िए NIOS के संग।